What if I told you that right now, in real time, millions of men across the Western world are quietly making a decision that is reshaping society in ways most people haven't even noticed yet? They're not marching in the streets. They're not posting manifestos. They're simply walking away from valuing women the way previous generations did. And once you see the evidence piling up in everyday interactions, dating apps, marriage rates, and even social media trends, you can't unsee it. But here's the thing that will keep you watching all the way to the end. By the time I'm done laying this out, you'll understand exactly why this shift isn't just happening. It's irreversible unless something drastic changes, and I'll show you the data and the real world consequences that prove it. If you're getting value from this kind of no filter breakdown, do me a solid, smash that like button, share this video with any man you know who's feeling this in his own life, and hit subscribe if you want more angry guy content that cuts through the noise. Also, if you're serious about protecting what you've built and growing your wealth in a world that's getting crazier by the day, go check out Angry's Crypto Academy right now. I'll teach you step by step how to actually buy, sell, trade, and safeguard crypto so you're not left holding the bag when the system keeps screwing the average guy. The link is in the description. Click it, enroll, and start taking control today. Let's get into this. Walk with me for a minute. Imagine it's 1955. A man comes home from work, opens the door, and there's a calm, clean home waiting for him. Dinner is on the table or close to it. His wife greets him with softness in her voice, maybe a smile that says, "I'm glad you're here." The kids are well behaved because they've been raised with structure and affection. That man felt genuine pride when he introduced her as my wife. He felt like he had something valuable, something worth protecting, something that completed the picture of a successful life. That pride wasn't just cultural programming, it was based on real, tangible value exchange. She brought peace, femininity, restraint, nurturing, all the things that balanced out the harshness he dealt with in the outside world. He brought provision, protection, leadership. It wasn't perfect, but it worked because both sides delivered something the other genuinely needed. Fast forward to today. That same scene almost never happens. The average man walks in the door after putting in his 8, 10, 12 hours, and the house is chaos. Dishes piled up, kids running wild or glued to screens, and his woman is on the couch scrolling TikTok, exhausted from her own job, maybe, or just from emotional labor. He still makes more money than she does in most cases, still carries the heavier financial load, but now he's also expected to jump straight into laundry, cooking, bedtime routines, all of it. And if he doesn't do it with a smile, he's toxic. If he asks why the house looks like a bomb went off, he's controlling. If he wants intimacy after all that, he's only caring about one thing. No matter how much he gives, and statistics show men today do dramatically more housework and childcare than any generation of men in recorded history, it's never enough. Never. The goalposts don't just move, they disappear entirely. You see, men learn fast when the feedback loop is this consistent. You pour effort in, you get criticism out. You try to lead, you get called patriarchal. You try to provide, you get told, "I don't need a man." You try to be emotional, you get called weak. You try to be stoic, you get called emotionally unavailable. There's literally no winning position left. So men did the only rational thing possible. They stopped playing the game altogether. That's why you hear guys today saying things like, "She's a great girl, but," and then trailing off. That's why married men, have this dead look behind their eyes at barbecues while their wives are loudly complaining about them to other women 5 feet away. That's why young guys are looking at marriage the way previous generations looked at going to war. Something you might survive, but why risk it when you can just not sign up? Look at the numbers for a second, because feelings don't override facts for a lot of people, but numbers don't lie. Marriage rates have been plummeting for decades. In the US, they're at the lowest point since they started keeping records in 1867. Men are initiating something like 70 to 80% of divorces now. Flip that around from 50 years ago when women filed most of them because now men would rather lose half their stuff and see their kids every other weekend than stay in the prison they've created for themselves. Men's suicide rates spike after divorce, but they still pull the trigger on leaving because death starts looking better than the slow soul crushing of staying. And don't come at me with, well, those are just the bad men leaving. No, the good men, the providers, the ones who did everything right, they're the ones walking. The deadbeats were never in these relationships to begin with. The men who built lives, paid the bills, showed up every day, they're the ones saying, I'm done. Because women today have been sold a narrative that destroyed their ability to bring value to men. They were told that calmness is weakness, that femininity is oppression, that raising children is unpaid labor instead of the most important job on planet Earth, that being a wife and mother is somehow makes you less than. So now we have generations of women who drink more than men. Actual statistic, women have closed the gap and surpassed men in binge drinking and alcohol related disorders. We have women who view their own families as burdens, who talk about emotional labor like reading their kid a bedtime story is equivalent to mining coal. Men noticed. Men noticed when their wives started talking about marriage like a job they hate but can't quit because of the benefits. Men noticed when happy wife, happy life turned into no matter what I do, she's unhappy, so why bother? Men noticed when every disagreement became an emotional tsunami that they could never win because logic doesn't beat feelings in that arena ever. You can't argue someone out of a feeling, and modern women have been taught that their feelings are the ultimate authority on reality. So men stopped arguing, then they stopped caring, then they stopped trying, and now they're stopping committing altogether. You think I'm exaggerating? Go look at any male dominated space online. Reddit forums, Discord servers, even comment sections on completely unrelated videos. Bring up dating or marriage and watch the responses. It's not anger anymore. Anger would mean they still care. It's indifference. It's why would I sign up for that? It's she's not yours. It's just your turn. Becoming I'm not even taking my turn anymore. The pride is gone, completely gone. Men used to flex their wives like a new car. Now they hide them like a criminal record. You ask a guy if he's seeing someone and he gets this tight little smile and says, yeah, kind of, even if they've been together 5 years. Because saying, this is my girlfriend out loud feels like admitting weakness now. It feels like saying, yes, I voluntarily signed up to be treated like this. And social media accelerated it all. TikTok spent years flooded with videos of women saying, high value women explaining why men are trash, why they don't need men, why men should be grateful they're even allowed to breathe the same air. Men are 5 feet 10, claiming 6 feet 0, broke, claiming rich, living with their mama, claiming independent. All that noise. Women celebrated male suicide rates going up. They made memes about men dying in wars. They danced on tables screaming, I don't need no man. Men heard you, and men always hear you the first time when you tell them you don't need or want them. They just don't argue anymore. They just leave quietly, one by one. No scene, no drama, just gone. That's why now TikTok is full of the opposite videos. Women in their late 20s and 30s making those quiet, sad little videos asking, where have all the good men gone? With that hollow look in their eyes while they film in their empty apartments. They're starting to feel the cold. The attention is drying up. The quality men aren't approaching. The ones who are approaching are the ones they spent years saying they didn't want. And the high value men, they're in the gym. They're building businesses. They're fishing with their boys on weekends. They're completely and utterly at peace being single because being single went from being lonely to being peaceful. That's the shift nobody saw coming. Single men today are happier than married men for the first time in recorded history. Let that sink in. The thing that used to be every man's goal, wife, kids, house, now makes men actively less happy than just staying single and keeping their money, their time, and their sanity. Women destroyed their own value in men's eyes systematically over decades, and now they're shocked that men adjusted their behavior accordingly. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. They were told you can have it all, but nobody explained that having it all would make them exhausted, bitter, and alone. They were told don't settle while simultaneously being encouraged to become the kind of person nobody wants to settle with. Young women today have a lower life expectancy than their grandmothers for the first time in modern history. They're more medicated, more anxious, more depressed, more likely to be on multiple psychiatric drugs by age 30. Despite having more freedom than any women in history, they're reporting the lowest happiness levels ever recorded. The liberal feminist experiment has been running for 50 years now, and the results are in. It made women miserable, but men aren't coming to save them from the consequences of their choices. That was the old social contract. Men protect women even from themselves. That contract is dead. Men are protecting themselves now, finally. If you want to destroy a civilization, you don't need to invade it. You just convince the women that the men are the enemy, convince the men that the women aren't worth the risk anymore, and watch it collapse from the inside. It's the cleanest takedown in history. And that's exactly what's happening. We're watching the death of the last remaining motivation most men had to build and maintain society, the promise of a peaceful home with a loving woman who appreciates them. That promise is gone. So the motivation is going with it. And men walking away aren't angry anymore. They're relieved. They're free. And nothing brings a man peace like knowing he no longer has to care about whether a woman is happy with him or not. That's the red pill that keeps on giving. And there it is. The silence you're hearing right now isn't just in your headphones, it's in the dating apps where the average guy gets zero matches while the top 5% of men get buried in options. It's in the courtrooms where another man signs away half his life's work because she wasn't happy. It's in the group chats where guys trade stories like war veterans. Bro, I paid for the date, walked her to her car, and she still posted that all men are trash the next morning. The silence is millions of men deciding without announcing it to nobody that they are done. Let me paint this picture even clearer for you. Picture a 28-year-old tradesman I know, makes 130 grand a year plumbing, owns his truck outright, no debt, lifts 5 days a week, has a tight circle of brothers, fishes every weekend. Solid dude. Last year he tried dating again after a 4-year break. He went on 12 first dates in a row. 12. Every single one ended the same way. The woman spent the entire date talking about her ex, her therapy, her boundaries, her icks, and how she's a high value queen who won't settle. Not one asked him a single question about his life. Not one. By date 9, he started running an experiment. He stopped talking completely and just nodded. They never even noticed. They just kept monologuing for 2 straight hours, then texted him at 2 a.m. asking, "You up?" He deleted the apps that night and hasn't looked back since. Now he's got more money, more sleep, more peace, and zero drama. He told me verbatim, "Bro, I feel like I escaped a cult." That story isn't rare. It's the default setting now. Women spent the last 15 years screaming, "We don't need men," from every rooftop, every podcast mic, every Instagram caption. And men, being the simple problem solvers we are, said, "Cool bet," and vanished. We didn't riot. We didn't debate. We didn't make PowerPoint presentations. We just left the room. And because we left quietly, most people didn't notice the room was emptying until it was almost too late. You can see the panic starting now. The articles are popping up everywhere. The male loneliness epidemic, why women can't find good men, the rise of the involuntary celibacy, but only for men, because when it happens to women, it's empowerment. The New York Times, The Atlantic, BBC. All of them running cover stories like they just discovered fire. They act like it's some giant mystery. Where did all the men go? They went from a meme to a legitimate journalistic beat. They're not in the clubs. They're not on the apps. They're not at the singles events. They're at the gym at 5 a.m. At the range on Saturday, on the boat with their dog, in the garage building something, or in another country banging women who still smile when a man walks into the room. That's where the men went. And the craziest part, the men who walked away aren't even mad anymore. That's what women don't get. They keep waiting for the big angry backlash, the pushback, the men's rights activists or whatever. It's never coming because anger requires investment. You only get angry at something you still care about fixing. Men don't care about fixing this anymore. We're not trying to teach women a lesson. We're not on strike. We're just I gone. We're playing Call of Duty and building crypto portfolios and smoking ribs in the backyard with the boys. And it feels better than any relationship we've had in the last 10 years. Women train men out of chivalry the way you train a dog out of jumping on guests. You punish every single instance until the behavior extinguishes. Every time a man held a door, I can open my own door. Every time he offered to pay, I don't need a man to pay for me. Every time he tried to lead, stop being controlling. Every time he showed desire, you only want one thing. Every time he showed emotion, man up. So men did. We manned all the way up. We became stoic, a self-reliant, outcome independent islands. And now that we're exactly what they claimed they wanted us to be, they're shocked we don't want them anymore. You can't spend a decade telling men they're obsolete and then act confused when they believe you and act accordingly. Let's talk about the delusion for a second, because this is the part that would be hilarious if it wasn't so destructive. You've got women in their mid to late 30s making TikToks with that filtered face, ring light glowing, wine glass in hand, saying, I'm 36 with no kids and I've never been happier. While the comments are flooded with other women cheering her on, and you can literally hear the desperation bleeding through the voice filter. They're not happy. They're coping hard. The studies are brutal. Women's happiness has been in free fall for 40 straight years. The more liberated they become, the more medicated, the more anxious, the more lonely they report being. The General Social Survey shows the percentage of women under 30 who say they're very happy has been cut in half since the 1970s. Meanwhile, men's happiness, it's rising for the first time in decades, driven almost entirely by young single men who have opted out. Let that marinate. The freest, richest, most educated women in human history are the most miserable, while the men they spent years calling losers for playing video games and refusing to grow up are happier than they've ever been. How did we get here? Simple. Women were sold a lie that having standards was the same as having value. They were told never settle while simultaneously being encouraged to sleep with whoever they felt like in their 20s, rack up debt on psychology degrees, travel and brunches, and outsource their fertility to someday. They were told the wall doesn't exist, that men would always be waiting with open arms, no matter how many bodies or how much attitude they collected along the way. And now they're hitting that wall at 78 miles an hour and wondering why there's no airbag. I want you to really visualize this. A woman turns 34. She's got the corporate job she hates, the cat she's allergic to, the wine fridge that's never empty, and a rotation of situationships with guys who won't commit because they're doing the same math every other man is doing. She opens Hinge, and suddenly the only men messaging her are divorced dads, 15 years older or 25-year-old entrepreneurs who live in their mom's basement. The men her age who make good money, they're either already married to younger women or they met years ago, or they're single by choice and they are not choosing her. They're choosing peace. She panics. She makes the videos. Where are all the good men? I'm a catch. I have my own everything. And in the background, you can see the emptiness. No family photos, no kids' toys, no evidence a man has ever been allowed to leave so much as a toothbrush there. Just plants she keeps forgetting to water and a ring light. That's the female delusion in its final form. Believing your value to a man is the same as your value to your girlfriends or your employer. Your girlfriends will hype you up forever. Your employer will pay you for your labor. But a high value man, he's looking for peace, loyalty, femininity, and someone who makes his life better, not someone who sees him as an emotional tampon and a walking ATM. And the truth that nobody wants to say out loud, most modern women make men's lives dramatically worse. That's not an opinion. That's the conclusion men have reached after direct experience. You bring nothing to the table but demands, criticism, and chaos, and then act shocked when men choose an empty table and a quiet meal alone. Men aren't hiding. We're just finally learned that our presence was never the prize women claimed it was. We were always the prize. And now that we know it, we're not giving it away for free anymore. The really brutal part, the part that keeps women up at night when they finally let the mask slip, is that men didn't just walk away from the bad ones. We walked away from all of them. Good girls, sweet girls, church girls, trad girls who claim they're not like the others. They're still getting ghosted, still getting pumped and dumped, still watching the same high value men spin 10 plates and commit to zero. Why? Because even the good ones have been infected with the same entitlement virus. They watched their single mothers, their professors, their favorite influencers, and they absorbed the same script. You're the prize. He has to earn you. You deserve and then whatever fantasy list is trending this week. So even when a woman tries to be soft, tries to cook, tries to be feminine, it lasts about 6 weeks until the first test of frame comes along, then the mask drops and the claws come out. Why are you talking to that female coworker? I don't like your friends. You need to delete all the girls from your Instagram. If you loved me, you'd and boom, the same program kicks in. Men have seen this movie so many times, we don't even need to wait for the ending anymore. We can smell the plot twist coming in the first act, and we just leave the theater. That's why the Where All the Good Men videos are so heartbreakingly clueless. The good men are right there. You're just invisible to them now. You're in their phone as Do Not Answer, Sarah from Hinge 2023, or Psycho Do Not Engage. They drive past you in traffic in the truck they paid for in cash. They're sitting 3 tables over at the steakhouse, laughing with their boys while you're on a miserable date with the only guy who still approached you, some divorced dad who's already texting his ex. The good men didn't die. They didn't move to Mars. They just stopped caring whether you exist or not. And that lack of caring feels like oxygen to them. Let me tell you about another story. So this isn't just abstract. One of my subscribers sent me this a couple of months ago, gave me full permission to share it anonymously. This dude is 35, software engineer, makes low 6 figures remotely, lives in a paid off condo in Florida, shredded, passport full of stamps. Classic catch on paper. He met a girl last year, 27, very pretty, claimed she was conservative, wanted the trad life, the whole package. First 3 months were actually good. She cooked, kept the place spotless, wore sundresses, posted Bible verses, the whole performance. He started thinking maybe the unicorn was real. He let his guard down a little. Then the mask started cracking. It started small. She didn't like that he went to the gym at 5 a.m. because that's couple time we're missing. Then she didn't like that he had female friends from college, even though he hadn't spoken to them in years. Then she wanted access to his phone for trust. Then she threw a fit because he wanted to go on a pre planned fishing trip with his dad and brothers. No girls allowed. Tradition since he was 12. She called him selfish, emotionally unavailable, said real men put their woman first. He came back from the trip to find she had taken everything he owned that she had ever touched, every gift he'd ever bought her, every photo of them, and burned it in a metal bucket in his driveway. Sent him a video of it with the caption, "This is what emotional abuse feels like." He didn't yell, didn't call her names, didn't try to get her back. He blocked her on everything, changed the locks, threw the ashes in the trash, and went back to the gym the next morning. 6 months later, he's dating a 22-year-old Colombian girl he met in Medellin who cooks arepas in lingerie and calls him Mireille. He says the peace in his home now is so complete, he sometimes forgets what stress even feels like. That's not an edge case. That story is playing out in different flavors in every city in the Western world right now. Women read that and think, well, she was crazy. I would never. But every single one of them has that same program ready to activate the moment they feel like they've locked a man down. It's not even conscious anymore. It's cultural programming so deep, it's biological at this point. And here's the part that almost nobody is willing to say out loud because it'll get you canceled into the sun. The juice is no longer worth the squeeze, even for the hottest, sweetest, most submissive eight you've ever met. Because even if she's perfect for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the sword of Damocles is always hanging there. One bad day, one mental health episode, one, you're not meeting my needs. And she can take your kids, your house, your dog, your savings, your reputation, and your future earnings. And the courts will applaud her for it. The risk reward ratio is so bad that Russian roulette starts looking like a safe bet in comparison. So men recalibrated. We looked at the contract, saw that it was written in invisible ink that only appears when it's time to screw us, and we refused to sign. We didn't burn the contract. We didn't protest it. We just walked away from the table and started playing a different game entirely. That game looks like this: wake up at 5, train, eat clean, stack money, travel with the boys, build something bigger than yourself, sleep like a baby at night knowing nobody can take it from you. No performance reviews, no emotional minefields, no walking on eggshells, no coming home to interrogation hour, just peace. Glorious, exquisite, hard earned peace. And the wildest part? Society is starting to crack under the weight of it already. Birth rates in the West are in absolute free fall. South Korea just hit 0.7, 2 children per woman. Italy, Spain, Japan, all under 1.3. The United States is at 1.62 and still dropping. Every single developed country is now below replacement level. And it's not because of economic anxiety, it's because men looked at the deal, said hard pass, and women are now experiencing the consequences of having no leverage left. They can't guilt men anymore. They can't shame men anymore. They can't threaten men anymore. All the old tools are broken. The only card they have left is sex. And even that's lost most of its power because pornography is higher quality than ever. Sex dolls and AI companions are getting terrifyingly good. And men have learned that the 15 minutes of mediocre starfish twice a month isn't worth the 10,000 hours of grief that come with it. So women are left holding a bag of nothing, screaming into the void, making sad little TikToks with captions like, I just want a man who will love me for me, while they sit in apartments full of Amazon boxes and dying plants, wondering why the world stopped making sense. It makes sense. You told men they were worthless, so they stopped giving you their worth. You told men you didn't need them, so they stopped showing up. You told men your feelings were more important than facts, so they stopped arguing and started ignoring. You turned relationships into a liability, so they turned them into an option they rarely exercise. And the machine keeps churning out more of you every year. Universities full of girls getting degrees in gender studies and communications, racking up debt, riding the carousel until their eggs start expiring, then hitting the apps at 32 with a list of demands longer than a CVS receipt and an attitude that could curdle milk. Meanwhile, the men they ignored at 22 are now 30, making 200 grand a week, shredded, passport bros, living their best lives. And the only time they even think about Western women is to use them as a cautionary tale when they're teaching their younger brothers how to navigate the world. That's not revenge, that's consequences, that's justice, actually. Because for the first time in history, men are choosing themselves the way women have been choosing themselves for 50 years. And it turns out when men choose themselves, civilization starts circling the drain pretty quick. But that's not our problem anymore. We warned you repeatedly for decades. We begged, we pleaded, wrote books, made videos, tried to explain that if you keep sawing off the branch you're sitting on, gravity is going to have its say eventually. You called us insecure. You called us misogynists. You called us incels. You laughed. You danced. You posted memes about how you were the table. Now the table has no legs, and you're sitting on the floor wondering why it's so cold. Men aren't coming back to that table ever. We found a better one. It's got steak, freedom, brotherhood, purpose, and zero nagging. And the guest list is strictly controlled. So to every woman watching this who's starting to feel that chill, it's not that there are no good men left. It's that the good men finally realized they were good enough to not need you anymore. And that realization is the most liberating thing that's ever happened to us. You see, what a lot of people still don't grasp is that this isn't a phase. This isn't men throwing a tantrum until women act right again. This is a permanent societal reconfiguration. The genie is out of the bottle and he's shredded, cashed up, got a second passport, and zero interest in going back inside. The old incentives have flipped so hard that even if every woman on earth woke up tomorrow and became a 1950s housewife cosplayer overnight, most men still wouldn't sign the marriage contract. Why? Because the courts didn't change, the culture didn't change. The sword is still hanging there. A man would have to be suicidal or completely blue pilled to lock himself back into that cage, no matter how sweet the bait smells. And that's exactly why the passport bro phenomenon isn't a fad, it's an exodus. In 2025, we're watching it accelerate faster than anyone predicted. American men are leaving in waves, not the broke losers either. The six-figure remote workers, the tradesmen who can fix a boiler in Bangkok for the same price as a Starbucks latte back home. The retired military guys with pensions, the digital nomads who realize Wi-Fi works the same in Colombia, Thailand, and the Philippines. These dudes are landing in Medellin, Cebu, Pattaya, Warsaw, Budapest, and within 2 weeks, they're being cooked for, smiled at, touched on the arm when they talk, and treated like human beings again. Not ATMs, not emotional punching bags, not fix it projects. Human beings. I've got buddies who moved to Southeast Asia and within 3 months had a girl 10 years younger, zero body count questions asked, who wakes up at 6 a.m. to make them breakfast and pack their gym bag without being asked. She doesn't post thirst traps. She doesn't have an OnlyFans. She doesn't argue about whose turn it is to load the dishwasher because she considers it an honor to take care of her man. And when he comes home, the house smells like food, not resentment. He sends me voice notes sometimes, and you can literally hear the stress melting off him. One guy told me, "Bro, I didn't know what peace felt like until I got here. I thought tight chest and clenched jaw was just how men live." And before anyone screams mail order bride or sex tourist, understand something. These aren't hookers. These are normal women from traditional cultures who were never told that masculinity is toxic. They didn't grow up watching their mothers divorce, rape their fathers. They didn't spend their formative years being told that cooking for a man is oppression. They look at a strong, kind, providing man and think husband material, not emotional labor provider. And when Western women find out about this, they lose their minds and start calling these foreign girls pick-me's and trad wives performing for clout. It just proves the point. The second a woman has to compete on the global market with women who are pleasant, the mask comes off and the hatred for men pours out because competition exposes the con. Western women spent decades being told they had a monopoly on pussy in their local area. Then the internet gave men a plane ticket and a $1,500 flight, and suddenly that monopoly evaporated overnight. Now, she's not competing with the cute girl at yoga anymore. She's competing with 800 million women in Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe who will treat a man like a king for a fraction of the attitude and none of the legal risk. And the numbers don't lie. US marriage rates to foreign born women have quietly doubled in the last 10 years. K1 fiance visas are through the roof. Colombia alone had over 12,000 American men visit last year looking for wives. Thailand's marriage migration numbers are off the charts. The data is screaming what we all already know. Men are voting with their feet, their passports, and their seed. Meanwhile, back home, the birth rate keeps cratering. White American women in the US are now at 1.4 children per woman, black women 1.6, Hispanic women just dipped under replacement, the only group still having kids at replacement or above, recent immigrants, and religious conservatives. Translation: the future of the West is going to be built by the children of men who either devout Christians or the passport bros who brought home a sweet girl from abroad. The girl bosses, the wine ants, the corporate feminists, their bloodlines end with them and their cats. That's not hyperbole, that's math. Every year that passes, another cohort of women ages out of peak fertility, having prioritized finding themselves over building a family. And another cohort of men decides Costa Rica looks nicer than another 10 years of eggshell walking. The trend compounds. In 10 years, the dating market for a 35-year-old Western woman is going to look like the surface of Mars, nothing but craters and desperation and imported competition. And the economy is starting to feel it too. Who do you think pays the majority of taxes? Single childless women living in 800 square foot apartments in cities? No, it's men. Married men pay the overwhelming majority of income tax in every Western country, as men either check out completely or pair off with foreign women who encourage them to leave high tax hellholes. The tax base shrinks. Pensions start wobbling. Social Security becomes a meme. Cities that built their budgets around the assumption that men would keep marrying, buying houses, and funding the system through alimony and child support are suddenly staring at bankruptcy. Japan figured this out 20 years ago and still hasn't recovered. South Korea is on the same trajectory except faster. Italy is literally paying people to move there and have kids because there's nobody left to keep the lights on. The West is next. We're just too arrogant to admit it yet. But the men who walked away, they're not coming back to fix it. Why would they? They're in Bali teaching surfing classes, or in Poland eating homemade pierogi cooked by a 25-year-old who thinks they hung the moon, or in Mexico City with a woman who rubs their shoulders when they get home without being asked. They're living better than 99% of married men back home for a third of the cost, with a tenth of the stress. And every day another man wakes up, looks at his bank account, looks at his passport, looks at the latest viral video of some American woman screaming about how all men being trash, and books a one-way ticket. The wall isn't coming. The wall is here, and it's made of millions of men who finally realized their value and decided to spend it somewhere it's appreciated. You want to know the real red pill that almost nobody is ready to swallow yet? This walkaway movement is still in its infancy. We haven't even hit the steep part of the curve yet. Give it another 5 to 10 years. When the first wave of these passport guys starts having 3, 4, 5 kids with their foreign wives, and those kids grow up bilingual, grounded, respectful, when those men are 50, looking 40, because they're not stressed out of their minds, when their sons come of age and see what dad escaped and swear they'll never touch a Western woman, that's when the real panic sets in. Because by then, the only men left in the West who are still willing to date locally will be the ones who couldn't leave. The bottom tier, the simps, the guys with no options, and women will have to choose between them, cats, or leaving the West themselves to compete in the global market they spent years pretending didn't exist. The irony will be delicious. But again, not our problem. Men warned women for decades. We wrote the books, we made the videos, we begged, we explained the math, the biology, the incentives, the history. We were called every name in the book. And now the consequences are here, right on schedule. So, to every man watching this, if you're still on the fence, still thinking maybe she'll change, still white knuckling it in a relationship that feels like a hostage situation, look at the brothers who left. Look at their faces in the photos they send from the beach, from the mountains, from their kitchens where a woman is smiling at them like he's the only man on earth. That peace you're craving, it exists. It's real. And it's on the other side of a plane ticket and a no to the life you were told you were supposed to want. Take it, you've earned it. And here's where it gets even darker for the people who still think this can be fixed with a few viral threads about bringing men back or some government daddy issuing man bonuses for marriage. It can't. The trust is gone, completely irradiated. You don't rebuild trust after a nuclear event. You just cordon off the area and let new grass grow somewhere else. That's what men are doing. We're the new growth, far away from ground zero. Let's talk about what's coming in the next 5 to 7 years, because most people are still arguing about 2023 while we're already living in 2030 in our heads. First, the religious revival among young men is about to explode. Zoomers and early alphas are the most godless generation ever raised until you split it by sex. Young women are still spiritual but not religious. Crystals and manifestation and the universe has my back. Nonsense. Young men, they're flooding into Orthodox Christianity, traditional Catholicism, serious Protestant house churches, and even converting to Islam in record numbers. Why? Because those spaces are the last places left where femininity is still rewarded, where women are expected to be soft, supportive, modest, and loyal, and where the deal is still honored on both sides. A 24-year-old guy who gets serious about his faith suddenly has women making him sandwiches and asking him to lead family prayer. He gets respect. He gets peace. He gets a virgin bride who sees submission as a flex, not oppression. Meanwhile, his secular twin is getting curved on Hinge by girls with "I'm a proud slut for Christ" in their bios. Guess which one starts believing real fast? The data already shows it. Orthodox Christian parishes in the US are seeing 70% male attendance under 35. Same with traditional Latin Mass. Mosque youth groups, overwhelmingly young men converting. These aren't coincidences. Men are running toward the last remaining structures that still punish female dysfunction and reward male leadership. And once they're in, they're not leaving. They're marrying 19-year-old virgins inside the community and having 6 kids before they're 35. Those bloodlines survive. Everyone else's dies. Second, AI companions and sex robotics are about to make the average Western woman completely obsolete for 80% of male needs. I'm not talking sci-fi. I'm talking 2028 to 2032. We're already there on the emotional side. Guys are paying $20 a month for AI girlfriends that remembers what they said last week, never nags, sends good morning texts with heart emojis, laughs at their dumb jokes, and tells them they're strong and handsome after a hard day. No attitude, no headache. No, I'm tired from emotional labor. And the tech is improving literally weekly. Voice is already indistinguishable. Images and video are there. Physical dolls with integrated AI and warmed silicone that feels like skin are already $6,000 and dropping fast. By 2030, you'll have a $2,000 companion that cooks. Robotic arms are coming. Cleans. Roomba already does it now. Gives Olympic level sex and never once asked where this is going or threatens to call the police because you looked at another girl. You think men are lonely now? Wait until the average guy has a perfect 10 who worships him waiting at home, zero risk, zero drama, and he can turn her off when he wants to play Warzone with the boys. The birth rate won't just crash. It will go negative in some countries. Japan is about to become the preview reel. Third, female economic power is going to get absolutely torched, and most of them have no idea it's coming. Right now, women hold most of the entry-level white-collar jobs because HR departments are 90% female and hire women. But AI is coming for those jobs first and hardest. Anything involving spreadsheets, emails, reports, scheduling, customer service, basic accounting, all gone in the next 5 years. ChatGPT is already better than the average 28-year-old marketing coordinator with a communications degree and $80,000 in student debt. When those jobs evaporate, women are going to flood into the remaining pink-collar fields: nursing, teaching, HR, ironically, and social work. Wages in those fields will crash from oversupply. At the same time, the trades, tech, and STEM fields that survive automation are 85% plus male and will see wages skyrocket. The wealth gap between young men and young women is about to become a canyon. And when women no longer have my own money to fall back on, the power dynamic flips permanently. You'll start seeing articles in 2032 with headlines like "The Crisis of Unmarriageable Women" and "Why Men Don't Need Partners Anymore." They'll act like it's a mystery. It won't be. Fourth, OnlyFans and the entire sexual liberation economy is going to implode. Right now, millions of midwomen are banking on selling nudes to thirsty simps as their retirement plan. AI slop is already better than 90% of OnlyFans content. The top 0.1% of girls will still make money, but the sixes and sevens who are pulling $5,000 a month right now, done. Their customers are going to be interacting with infinite custom generated tens who never age, never say no, and don't need therapy. That revenue dries up. Those women have no skills, no husband, no kids, and rent is still due. You'll see a wave of "I was a former creator, now I'm born again" content as they try to pivot into the religious communities that might still take pity on them. Most won't be accepted. Reputations travel faster than redemption arcs. Fifth, the state is going to try to force men back into the harness. They're already floating ideas: bachelor taxes, childless penalties, mandatory paternity testing bans to keep cucks paying, even whispers in Europe about limiting men's ability to expatriate. It won't work. Men will go underground, go crypto only, go gray man, go abroad, go monk mode. You can't tax a man who's still participating in the system. You can't tax a ghost. The more they tighten the grip, the more men will slip through their fingers. We've watched what happens when the state sides with women against men. We're not signing up for round two. And finally, the biggest one nobody wants to say out loud: male abundance is coming. For the first time in human history, high value men are about to have more options than they know what to do with. Between foreign women who still value masculinity, AI that fulfills every fantasy, religious communities producing submissive wives, and the bottom 80% of men simply opting out entirely, the sexual marketplace is flipping from 80 to 20 to 95 to 5. The top 5% of men will have access to multiple high quality women begging for commitment, while the average woman competes with AI, foreign brides, and each other for the crumbs from those men's tables. We already see it starting. Look at any major city. The top guys have rosters, the average guys have nothing. And the women are starting to fight each other like crabs in a bucket for access to that top 5%. The era of women having unlimited options and men begging for scraps is over. Dead, buried. The pendulum didn't just swing back, it broke off the clock and kept going. So when women ask, how do we fix this? The answer is, you don't. You can't. The damage is generational. You broke the trust. You weaponized the state. You celebrated the destruction of men. You told men they were disposable for 50 years. And now that men finally believed you and disposed of themselves from your lives, you want a do over? Number, there are no do overs. There is only forward. For men, forward looks like peace, brotherhood, purpose, wealth, health, and options we couldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago. For women who refuse to adapt, forward looks like wine, cats, antidepressants, and a slow realization in their 40s that nobody is coming to save them from the empire of nothing they built. And for society, forward looks like collapse, reconfiguration, or conquest. History says it's usually conquest. Strong men from cultures that didn't castrate their males will inherit the West the same way the barbarians inherited Rome. Could be Muslims, could be Chinese, it could be the Mormons and the Amish outbreeding everyone 10 to 1. Doesn't matter. Someone will take the land when the current occupants stop having children. But again, not my problem, not our problem. We're busy building something new. We're the men who walked away, and we're not walking back, ever. So, to every man still watching this who's stuck in the matrix, still paying for dates with women who despise him, still hoping the right one will come along if he just gyms harder and makes more money, wake up. The right one doesn't exist here anymore. She's either overseas in a church pew, in a lab being 3D printed, or she was never born because her potential mother chose career and cats instead. Your peace is waiting. Your brothers are waiting. Your real life is waiting. All you have to do is stop valuing women who don't value you back. Stop arguing. Stop explaining and stop caring. Just walk. The door is wide open, and on the other side is the best time in history to be a man. Take it. You owe the old world nothing. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think about all this? Do you agree that the shift is permanent, or do you think something could still reverse it? Are you already walking away, or are you still on the fence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this hit you in the chest like it did me when I first saw it, do me a favor. Like the video. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, you share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.